afternoon. Can I have a show of hands for those who are in the non-financial sector? Okay, all right, maybe like a third of the room. So I come from the non-financial sector, and I think all protocols observed, of course, is that Massy, and it's not just Massy, but all companies that are operating traditional business models in the Caribbean really have to recognize, if they haven't recognized already, that if you don't look around the corner, your Kodak moment will be waiting for you. And I think our presence here and our collaboration with BIT is a testament to what we believe it's important to do. And we believe that what is being done here is important, and we support it. And we're very glad to be playing in the sandbox, so to speak. So I originally wanted to talk about, the CSN and ease of doing business, etc. And I'm going to touch on that, but I think I've been so moved by what I've heard in the conversations leading up to this point. I will just begin with maybe a little story, because there's a particular issue that faces the trading sector, if you will, that's very present for me. And back in 1991, I went into the bank in Trinidad. I'm from Trinidad, and went to get a quantity of US dollars, because I was going to university in the United States. I had never left the country for any extended period of time before. I was very excited, etc. So I go in there, all excited. I'm going to get my money, and I'm going to get an apartment, and I stand up in line for like 3 hours. Okay, it wasn't 3 hours. Maybe it was about 2 hours. In those days, we had to fill out a form called an EC1 form. It was an exchange control 1 form. And you had to do it in triplicate, and then you had to go and present your case to get hard currency. Of course, I was insulated from all of that prior to that time. And so anyway, what happened is that it was just a bad day for the bank. The bank's doing its best, but it was a bad day for the bank. And the teller looked at me and just sort of reached down and then pulled up, and then I got this. I got $1 US. No, I've never forgotten that, right? I think he did it, just to say, look, you'll get your money, but right now, if you want dollars, I'm going to give you $1. And this is, underscores an issue that has been with us, and we've talked a lot about liquidity and other things, and I'll touch on that again. But the issue of convertibility is very key for us in the commercial sector. So the idea that we can displace the quantity of hard currency that's required in order to settle regional transactions, how could you not want that, right? Because we do have a convertibility issue, and probably nowhere so more urgent than it is in Trinidad at the moment. So that's my story, but you can see from 91 and we're in 2019, the issue kind of went away, and it's back, and it's something that we need to find a way, a real solution to this. And I think that if we advance down this road, that's going to be something that we're going to find. So this is us. Can we dim the light? Is it the light on the top here? Right, thank you. This is us. It's beautiful, isn't it? This is home. The Massy Group The Massy Group is an investment holding / management company. So we own companies and we operate companies. We participate in food retail, food distribution, auto dealerships, heavy industrial equipment, energy, industrial gases. We build platforms that go and get installed offshore in 300 meters of water. We have a property and casualty insurance company. We have consumer finance, and we're also in the remittance business. But we are a legacy company, right? We've been publicly traded since the 1930s. We also participate. This business spans 10 territories in the Caribbean, and we're also in Colombia. So we feel that we know our businesses well, and we know our markets well. But we recognize in our businesses, and in businesses that look like us, that there's a real digital deficit, which it makes it difficult to do business in the region. And we think that that's actually something that we can leverage when we get the tools to do better business. Because it's actually made us, the adversity has made us clever, stronger, hungrier. Anyhow, the implications for the Caribbean, though, I was very concerned when I saw the projection of the GDP per capita for the Caribbean region going down and populations going down. I mean, these are forces that are going to affect all of our businesses, and we really must do everything we can to make that scenario not play out. I think the specific issues around why we are there have been ventilated today very well, particularly Justin Ram's presentation was excellent. From a private sector point of view, we're just uncompetitive when we're compared to a global benchmark. So, this is one sort of link in that chain, and you are as strong as your weakest link in the chain of business. There is a concept that has been mentioned a couple of times in the discussions today, and I'm just going to have to reinforce it. I was looking at my slides thinking, what could I chop out? Because I don't want to bore you. But I'm going to put a little spin on this one, and hopefully it'll make it a bit more fun. So this is the Greek symbol for mu. And I'm seeing some smiles in the audience, and maybe some blank looks, which is fine. It's the 12th letter in the Greek alphabet, right? It can mean different things to different scientists. I mean, I think the power scientists, mu is capacitance. But in physics, because I'm an engineer by training, I know this symbol well. This is the symbol that expresses the coefficient of friction, right? Friction is bad, okay? It's bad for our businesses. It's expensive, it's slow, it's inefficient. Just think of the difference between using email and using WhatsApp. These are digital technologies, but somehow there's less friction with WhatsApp. I am on, I guess, and many of you on multiple chat groups, helping with the disaster relief effort in the Bahamas, etc. And there's no way that we would be able to keep track of that many conversations using standard email. So just the concept of removing friction is incredibly important. And however we find a way to do it, we should need to do it. And therefore, the real goal that we want to see in the private sector, and I'm sure you agree in the financial sector, is for mu to equal 0. The next concept that I thought we wanted to keep was the concept of liquidity. Liquidity, how does that affect us? Obviously, there's, when you look at the base of the financial transaction and you're seeing, okay, we can see where value is being lost and eroded, it's this, that's this like the direct cost, but the indirect cost of liquidity is opportunity. You miss opportunities. If you cannot move your money, and if you cannot access capital, you just can't play, right? So liquidity is the transmission mechanism for capital. And because we do not have easy transmission of capital across our borders, in the course of running our businesses, we would have companies that have lines of credit everywhere, right? We'd have lines of credit everywhere, and this is nothing against the banks. Look, you're providing a service and we need it. But we would rather not buy that service. And the reason is, we have funds that we could deploy into different businesses in different territories for different reasons, over different durations and at different costs, but we can't do it. So we have to have facilities everywhere, and then we have to manage those facilities, and then we have to have governance on top of those facilities, and so on, and so on, and so on. So we would like to eliminate, those facilities where possible, have a true frictionless treasury function. It would even allow small companies to easier expand across the borders. I mean, Massy is a big company. We're a $2 billion company, trading in, basically non-digital, right? Can you imagine if we added the type of uplift, business uplift we could get from being able to move more quickly and respond more nimbly? But I think, forget the Massys of the world. Think about this. Think about the entrepreneurs, the people, what they could do if they had access to money and to resources so that they could respond quickly. So we think, capital is the source of life for a business. It's just that simple. We would also like to continue to invest in growing economies, or any economy that we choose. This exhibit is that's an illustration of the FPSO vessel that's just arrived in Guyana. Guyana's had, as sure as many of you know, a massive oil and gas discovery, something that we in Trinidad understand quite well, but even we've never seen anything on this scale. So many companies in the Caribbean would like to establish operations in Guyana, but that requires currency. You can't take your fiat currency and do that. You need to find some way to buy Guyanese dollars. If I want to build a building, let's say a 4 or 5 story building, it costs $10 million or of the like. That's that's 2.1 billion Guy dollars. Where am I going to get that from? Right. So whilst we've been talking a lot in this conference about moving small bits of money to wallets, there's also a need for large capital movements, and it'll be interesting to see how that conversation develops. What else? Yeah, one of the things that I think really stuck with me is when I was thinking of the larger capital movements in terms of buying companies and selling companies, and the technical difficulties involved with getting this balance between the regional currencies, such that at the end of a swap cycle, assuming that the central banks have these swaps that they agree to settle at the end of the day. If we look at the region as a whole, there's some policy that would really help the private sector to ensure that there is sufficient hard currency available and hard currency flows that are going into the economy structurally, so that there's a reduced risk of not being able to settle those swap agreements at the end of a term. It was very interesting, the model that the previous speaker showed about the 3 different mechanisms for how one could actually go about having these trusted agreements between central banks. And just looking forward a little bit into our region, we need to have a way to want those dollars as much as we want a US dollar. Because it's not just the reality of the transaction. It's actually, the perception we have of our desire for a particular currency. And I think the CSN could transform that. Because right now, people just line up on one side of the equation and say, look, I want the dollars, please, right? But, there's no real difference. If you know what a Barbados dollar is worth and a Trinidad dollar is worth and an EC dollar is worth, there's really actually no difference once you know what the reference price is. And it would be good to get, our children into a place where that's how they grow up. So I look forward to that. Look forward to working with you to make that happen. I am probably running out of time. 5 more minutes. Yeah, okay. So this really speaks to the opportunity cost. This is actually a photo of a guy waiting to get into Wimbledon. And they queue up for hours and days to get into Wimbledon. I actually joined that queue. And there was a person who came along with a little silver, like a chain watch, but it was a clicker. And I had no idea what was going on. And the person came to me and I said, by the way, do I have a chance of getting into this thing? And she said, yes, you're number 3,618 in the line. But she said, yeah, there are 7,000 tickets left, no problem. Right? So it kind of feels, the reason I chose this is because, sometimes and this comes back to convertibility again. Did you want to get what you want to get? But you have to wait. We have to wait, and the waiting is what makes us lose opportunities. Down. The unbanked, of course, for companies that operate in the retail space, yes, we want to engage with the unbanked in a better way. We engage, they are customers now, but we want to deepen the relationship with them. Big challenge for small entrepreneurs is scaling up in the Caribbean. I talked a little bit about that. But you can think of it in the context of large companies doing intra-regional supply agreements. So I want to buy uniforms for Massy for the whole Caribbean. And a bidder in St. Lucia might be disadvantaged over a bidder in Trinidad because of the way they would need to settle currency and the way that the uniforms would have to be shipped all over the Caribbean, etc. And it becomes complicated, but what happens is it disadvantages the small operator. And if we are to grow these economies in these small territories, we have to find a way to make the playing field more level, or else these businesses just simply don't grow. We have to move barriers for suppliers that are even supplying in the local economy. So this is talking about just within your single territory, within Barbados, selling into a Massy stores, for example. Many vendors, cannot participate in the formal or the informal retail trade because there just isn't easy ways to do it. But it could open up a lot of possibility for those people who just who will have limited capital. And I'm just going to go down to the. So we're all very present to this, and obviously my heart and everyone's heart goes out to the victims of the disaster. And I just have to say, this is a part of our lives. We are living at the sort of the end of the bowling alley where the pins stand up, because all hurricanes really start below Cape Verdes, so I'm told. And this is the track of all hurricanes from 1851 to 2016. So they all come, and we have to find a way to be more resilient and to deal with it. So hopefully that will segue you into the next section, Marla. But even beyond hurricanes, we're surrounded by 5 tectonic plates, or 4 tectonic, I think it's 4 or 5. But so we're taking pressure on the top and we're taking pressure from below. We are built for pressure, but our commitment to you is that we will look good when we take any pressure. And with that, I hand it back over. Thank you.